and helped in many which ways, providing education, supporting families on health issues, supporting families or poor girls to get married. So there are many examples which I saw, and I have been involved in various uh, institutions. Nehru Siddhant Kendra Trust, of course, is one, and then there are many others where I give my time. Uh, what we need to really keep in mind is that beyond being compassionate, caring and loving, I think these are the two Satyan values which you would all have picked up in the school as well, is something which makes you a person which is different from others. And and when I say we need to care for others, we need to love others. It starts from caring of your own self and your loved ones, and loving your own self and your loved ones. That's how the journey starts. I was very fortunate. My father, who was a hardcore politician all through his life, while he gave not much time to the family because he was always busy with his work, but uh, the amount of help he provided to those people who needed the most, the institutions which he set up, which took care of those who needed the most. Nehru Siddhant Kendra, the Indian Association of Parliamentarians on Population Development. These are the two great institutions which he founded. And let me share with you. It's a personal thing which happened with me, but I have no hesitation in sharing with you. I was in college studying at the YMCA Institute of Engineering. I know you are bewildered because I don't look like I'm an engineer, but I did a post diploma in electronics and instrumentation. Um, so I happened to come from my college, Faridabad, into Delhi, where my dad used to be there, living as a member of parliament. So one day I happened to tell him, I said, I don't understand that you started your journey with Jawaharlal Nehru as a youth leader. In fact, my father was the founder, one of the founders of the Indian Youth Congress. So he was the founder secretary when the Indian Youth Congress was made way back in the 50s or 60s. I don't know when it got made. And I said, you worked with Nehru, you worked so closely with Indira Gandhi, and Indira Gandhi was still the prime minister at that time. So Nehru Gandhi family, uh, uh, they rely on your wisdom, on your uh, work which you do for the Congress party and all. So to cut the story short, I said, why don't you just ask for and become a minister? Now, for me at that time, a minister was a very big thing. Today, I can tell you it really doesn't matter to me who's the minister. So that's the journey I've traversed. He sat me down. He said, and I remember he said, Rakesh, you are very naive. Actually, the word he used was "tu bada bhola hai." He says, God has given me the strength that all through my life, my hand remains like this, right? To give. You are asking me to extend my hand and ask for something which I'll never do. That was one of the most powerful lessons I learned from my father. So these are the things which you pick up during your early years, during your youth. And let me also say, when you meet each other, friends in school, friends outside, your relatives, your cousins, you keep on picking up these things in unknowingly, and you also share unknowingly with the others. It really depends on how open is your mind and heart to receive these things, to make it as part of your life and living. And therefore, I'm happy, Namya, what you talked about. And I only wish that this carries with you for the future as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I'm waiting. Don't wait for the teacher to call out names. Please unmute yourself and you can speak.
Sir, the increasing poverty rate in India.
Yes, Vanya. This is indeed a great worry for the policymakers, for the governments and the governance. And I remember during the 60s when we were not self-sufficient on food. And that is a time when PL 480, that was the wheat, variety of wheat which used to come from the US as a dole, as free. USA used to send us shiploads of wheat so that we could feed our people. And then came the Green Revolution, and we have only seen after that self sufficiency of food in India. And not only that, we export huge quantities as well. But in spite of that, it took a very, very long time for poverty levels to start coming down. And I don't know the initial data, but probably 1947 post independence, we had a very, very large population who were living under the poverty line. And that point of time, they never used to be below poverty line. I think the BPL families now are $2 a day. If you are earning less than that, you become a below poverty line family, which is 140, 150 bucks a day. Um, and governments after governments, political parties after political parties have raised these slogans of Garibi Hatao. We need to eliminate poverty. We need to reduce poverty, which has not happened till date. In fact, the poverty rate has gone up in the last 18 months due to pandemic. The numbers are still very fuzzy, but it could be anywhere between 7 to 10% added to the poverty percentages, which I believe had gone under 20% in 2019, let's say up to the 2019 of March. Which so that means we are at about 27, 25, 30%, which is a huge population, a large population, 1.4 crores. And that much problem for the government to provide for those families, those people. Um, Also, I must say that the one big reason has been the population explosion. This is one area where India has lagged and missed out big time in the 80s. You were probably not born when in the 1970s, sometimes in the mid 70s, during Indira Gandhi's prime ministership, her son Sanjay started talking about that we need to bring down population, and the family planning program started, and hum do hamare do, two parents and not more than two children. That was the slogan which was coined. But there were a lot of I would say atrocities done at that point of time. I don't know how much of that is true or truth or wrong, but the governments after that stopped really taking it very, very seriously. And I remember my father, who was leading the population development movement in the world, gave a list of the do's and don'ts. Not sorry, do's and don'ts. Incentives and disincentives to the prime minister by saying that if you have more than two children, then you have a disincentive, not a government job, no promotions, that kind of a thing. which was put forward. And the Prime Minister said, Mittalji, I mean, you know what happened to us. We lost very heavily on this account. And you're asking us to do this again. Therefore, no one ever dared to talk about that. China did that very well. They went very, very strict on one child policy. And not only that, let me tell you, I'm just digressing from the subject, but this is important why poverty continues in India. In China, they said, first of all, they enhanced, they took up the age of marriage. And they said the boy 21, the girl 18. And that also you can't get married unless you seek approval from the government. So in China, in the 80s, 90s, 2000, you had to apply to get married. That was one. Then they said, you cannot have a child. You need to formally apply and take our approval. So much so that they would, let's say, Ludhiana, let me just, because you'll correlate, Sarabanagar will have 20 kids this year. Habowal will have 20 kids this. That is how the quota system of kids were put in China, and they went down to a one child policy, one child norm. Of course, a lot of female feticide in China because they also want boys. And it was getting into a situation where there were malpractices. The end result today is China is the oldest economy, age wise. India did not do anything. We continue to have younger generations. So the outcome is that we are the youngest economy in the world, but with a large burden of feeding 300 million mouths who cannot afford to earn a decent meal. Also, I remember one of the ministers at one point of time making a statement, and this was in Singapore when I was with him. And in one of the public interactions, he said, the middle income, the low middle income group can now have a second meal a day, which means that they could only afford one meal a day for themselves and their kids. So that is how the poverty kept on reducing, and we saw more pressure on food, more pressure on nutritious meals. But to come back to Vanya, your question, yes, it is indeed a very, very serious issue grappling the entire country. And unless this is taken care of, we will continue to live in turmoil. We will continue to live in chaos. We will continue to not have safe drinking water for our entire Indians across the country, sanitation, so on and so forth, housing. And therefore, I always say that we must take care of the people who are working with us at our homes, the domestic staff. If your father, mother, whoever are in business, the staff, the workers there, if we can start taking care of them, their children's education, their children and the family's health, automatically we are supporting the government in a way where we can see that the poverty is being taken care of by every citizen in India. And let me also say that you must keep in mind, you are the future of India, and your next generation, the generations after. The youth is always the future of a nation. And if the youth can imbibe values, if the youth can be compassionate, caring, and loving, if the youth can be responsible and accountable for what they do, not just seeking authority, and if the youth stops throwing their weight around because I have more money, I have a better status, you don't have, and you start to pull down the others. If you do the positive things, we will surely see the nation prosper.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable.
So I would like to ask another question. You talked about like the role of youth. So what is your viewpoint on the role of youth in politics?
You're asking the wrong person, because I have been under tremendous pressure because of the political lineage. Why do I? When I say do I, means the three of us, one out of the three. Why have we not come into politics? Yes, youth is required to come into politics for two, three reasons. One, the youthful energy and the new ideas. Two, the young boys and girls who come in, they have not been corrupted, or their minds have not been tuned to doing things the way things have been happening for the last few decades. So you come with a fresh mind, more hardworking, more youthful energy. And I would say the third point which I can bring on is today's youth understands more teamwork than what was understood in the previous generations. Though, if I see the previous generations worked more cohesively than the generations I see today, and that I attribute to personal self-interest. So to get into politics, you have to be selfless, and that is the most difficult thing to do. Because generally, or let's say not generally, majority of people who are joining politics today are seeing this as a business, not to serve, but to make money, to earn, to have power, to have uh, to get things done. And the law is different for different people in the country. Um, and I can give you the answer why I did not, because my father passed away at a very young age of 61. I was about 36 plus, and the business was still very small. And I remember sitting down, my two brothers had said that, yes, this is one opportunity we have, but there are many which ways you can serve the country and contribute to the growth of the country, or the GDP or economic growth of the country. And therefore, we decided not to get into politics. The matter of fact is, the politics which I saw in my home, is not there on the streets today. There is no respect of each other. There is no there is no cohesiveness. There is only selfish interests. You are not there to serve, and therefore it's a very, very uh, difficult decision for me to say yes, you should go into politics. But the answer to your question, youth need to come into politics and must come into politics with a clean heart, with a mind to serve, and ensure that you are not putting the hand in the till to make money for yourself, but you are actually utilizing the resources of the government for a better India.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Gurnoor, I thought you were wanting to say something before Namia came in.
No, sir. I was
Okay,
thinking.
but you can
Sir, I
go
wanted
ahead.
to ask, sir, what about the people who lost their jobs during the pandemic?
भाई पहला मन ये दस नाम तेरा जुगाड़ किने रखे
Sir, Jugad.
जुगाड़ भाई the problem of this English Hindi words written in English is a thing, because jugaad is also written like this. I mean, although it should be double D or RD at the end. So pardon my saying that, मैं समझे भी पता नहीं कोई जुगाड़ लड़ा के तू पैदा हुआ है इस करके तेरा नाम बापू ने जुगाड़ रखा.
Nice, sir.
Okay, sorry, just repeat your question.
Sir, what about the people who lost their jobs during the pandemic?
Yes. So very, very unfortunate, of course. And I can tell you, I blame the Indian industry. I blame the SMBs, the small and medium businesses, who could afford. I'm not saying everyone could, but there are many SMBs who could afford paying the salaries to their employees, and they stopped paying that. They found an easy way out. And I think this was a time when we needed to support each and every one. People who have lost lives, is going to be very, very tough for them to get employment in the very near future. And I don't see this happening in the next year or so. Because we started this year. So let me go back. We ended the last financial year with the startup pandemic, which was March 20. At least the year was on economic activity was still there, though it was lower than the previous year. Um, but now this starting this March or April, the financial year, on a situation where there are shutdowns, there are lockdowns, the commercial activities are not happening, more people are losing jobs. Indeed, a great matter of concern. And we should not only be looking at the jobs lost. Actually, we should be looking at the livelihoods which are getting impacted. Because a person who loses a job, a family of 4 or 5, uh, go on to fall onto bad times, fall upon bad times. And the governments are trying to do whatever they can, but I believe the businesses must ensure that they handhold the people at this point of time. I can tell you, in Bharti, we did not lay off a single person, whether my businesses were in profits or losses. My domestic staff who were not coming during the lockout for the 5 6 months got full salaries. But this is a time when we need to support each one of us. I mean, each one of us need to do that. Also, the public spending, public expenditure must continue at this point of time. And that is where you can generate the jobs under the Manrega scheme. If there is public infrastructure happening, roads being built, ports, bridges, and whatnot, at least there is employment for the daily wagers, so that people who's losing a job at one place can go and work at another place. This also has gotten compounded, Jugad, by uh, the migrant workers who went back home last year because they wanted to be with their families if anything, God forbid, anything happens. So therefore, the jobs also shifted from one place to the other. While the cities, urban cities, saw lesser workforce in the rural areas, and that is where I think Manrega supported them. On the road construction, we have had the record of constructing 37 kilometers of roads every single day last year. I think that was the uh, data shared by Nitin Gadkari. And we can understand, when we are talking of the road construction, the so many agencies get involved, the daily wagers, the brick breakers, the so on and so forth, the drivers of large trucks or the whatever they are called, the movers, the earth movers, so on and so forth. Yes, that is something which the struggle will continue. And again, I'm going back to saying that I'm sincerely praying that we must get out of this pandemic at the earliest. The problem is the moment we start to get into a recovery mode, people like us become irresponsible, and we go into doing things which we should not be doing. And many a times I've seen my friends saying, हमने एक shot लगा लिया, jab लगा लिया, हमने 2 लगा लिए, तो हमको अब क्या होना है? Without realizing that virus has nothing to do with whether you've taken a vaccine shot or not. You have to keep on doing the safety precautions, wearing masks in public. So those are the things. Um, uh, but also the closed businesses, jobs lost is a huge lost opportunity for India.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I want to know your opinion on farm.
Opinion on
Sir, farmer bills.
farmer bill. I didn't see the face. Who asked the question? So I can't know who did
Sir,
ask.
Harviraj.
Harviraj. Ah. Uh, the best thing to happen, the three bills, farmer reform bills, because that can change the face of modern, that can change the face of agriculture into modern agriculture in India. I have no hesitation in saying that I have been fighting for these changes in the agriculture laws for the last 15 years. I have spearheaded the movement of bringing changes into the archived, sorry, archaic agriculture laws, which did not make any sense. And let me give you just one example of that. Today, you can buy anything in this country, walk in, pay cash, walk out. Our generation, we had to have a license for a transistor radio. I mean, I know you don't know, you can't correlate what is a transistor radio, but that was the only entertainment thing which every person carried at that point of time. There were big radios at home, and there was a transistor radio which you could carry. It was a mobile entertainment box, if I may say. Your news, your songs, and so on and so forth. For a TV, we needed a license. For a scooter, you book and your child can only get it because it'll take 20 years for the scooter to come. So I belong to that generation. And you are, again, I'm saying, truly blessed that you have everything at beck and call, and your parents can afford to do that. But to sell agriculture produce in this country, even today, you need a license. A farmer cannot sell his produce or crop without going into a mandi, and that license which I'm saying is the Artiya license. Only he can only go through the Artiya. And if I tell you, the Artiyas fleece the farmers like no one can. Um, the transaction happens under a small towel or a gamcha. So the two Artiyas put their hand, and it's covered with that cloth, and in 10 seconds they say this is the price. The farmer doesn't know what happened, who's the seller, the buyer doesn't know what has happened, and they charge 4 to 6% commission on both sides. So I was fighting for that the farmers must be given freedom to sell their agriculture produce to whoever they want. Why should they be barred from doing that? And if you see the other, the leasehold and other subject, and I can again tell you, agriculture land is a very sensitive subject in this country, and there are restrictions. Individually, state to state, you cannot hold more than 17 to 22 acres, depending on which state you are in, cultivable land for agriculture purposes. And I was pushing hard that on a 17, and by the way, the average land holding is 1 hectare, which is about two and a half acres. You cannot deploy modern equipment. You cannot have new techniques, drip irrigation, so on and so forth. And I was pushing this agenda for the first 5-10 years of what I just shared with you, and then I turned the narrative, and I said, why can't we look at long-term leases for agriculture land between the farmer and the lessee, and leave it to them to decide. And I worked single-handedly with the governments of Punjab, Rajasthan, and Haryana, who brought in legislation and laws, never implemented, because the opposition will take that up and the governments will follow that. Um, so to come back to your question, Harviraj, this could have never happened if it was lying with the state governments. because agriculture is a state subject. So therefore, every time I talk to the chief minister, he would agree with me, he or she would agree with me, but publicly they will never say that this needs to be done. So when they were talking to the farmers, they will talk about what farmers need. When they go to the Artiya, they'll talk about what the Artiya needs because they are the vote banks. I mean, we can't default them. That is the part of life or part of job which they do. And I have personally given strong few recommendations to the prime ministers and the agriculture minister, including Prime Minister Modi. And I was very happy when these three laws were announced. Um, the, the way and manner it got through the parliament, I don't want to get into that debate. But having said that, this was a once in a lifetime opportunity where the Prime Minister moved very fast. And under the NDMA Act, where the powers rested with the central government, they brought these laws. Where is the problem? Why do we see farmers on the road? And that is where we come back to the MSP, which is the the minimum support price for a crop, which was a commitment given by the government in the 60s when we had no food. The farmers were given this sovereign guarantee that whatever you produce, the state will pick up because we needed the wheat and rice pulses at that point of time. The time has changed. We are talking of now 7 decades after the Green Revolution started. The buffer stock to feed India is in the range of about 27, 29 million tons. Both wheat, rice, and pulses put together. That is the buffer stock which the state must always have. If there's a drought, if there is flooding and the crops don't come, then at least you can fall back on those reserves. Let me give you the data of last October. India is sitting on 90 million tons of food, which is rotting. And I always say we have fat, healthy rats and malnourished children. I mean, look at the irony of the situation. We don't have modern food storage. If you drive through Punjab and Haryana, you see godowns, those yellow big godowns, which are rented by the Food Corporation of India. And outside on the platform, you'll see food stored, wheat and rice under a black tarpaulin, that plastic kind of a paper. This is where we are. So while the farmers are agitating that the minimum support price will go, they don't realize that with the private sector and other avenues coming in, they will be moving away from doing what they do today and start earning better. I am in agriculture. I do primary agriculture. I work with 15,000 farmers in Punjab, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, right? Each farmer who works with me, their annual incomes have gone up from 30 to 50%. On the baby corn crop, which we do, we are the largest exporter of baby corn to UK. And we have changed the cropping patterns. So in Punjab, they do either wheat or rice and 2 crops of baby corn. So baby corn crop is about 60 days. And the wheat and rice is 90, 120, whatever that cycle is. So their income levels have gone up. And the water table, which is falling very severely in Punjab, about 60 centimeters of water, 2 feet of water every year goes down, the underground water level. There are villages which have to pump in 600 feet below the ground to get water for agriculture. So look at the ecological nightmare which is happening. And therefore, there was an urgent need for the farmers to move from wheat rice cropping pattern to high value crops so that their income levels can go up. The problem is that this should have been done in a phased manner over the last few decades, which never happened. And all of a sudden, when this came in, we saw the farmers coming on the road, more in the North India, because if you see the MSP or the farmers which are getting support is Punjab, Haryana, UP, and probably Madhya Pradesh. So very good for the country in the future, very good for modern agriculture, very good for improving productivity. You will be surprised that when we are looking at our productivity vis-a-vis the world, China has doubled the rice production from the same piece of land, because we continue to use age-old traditions. The moment private sector comes in, the moment I would say uh, corporate India comes into the agriculture, we see different ways of doing farming. Uh, in fact, I think what one day we'll do something. One day we'll organize. My farm is at the Satluj Canal. Satluj River on the bank of Satluj River, 300 acres. So when it is the crop is standing, maybe I'll send a message and the kids can then, after the pandemic is gone, go and visit the farm and see how we do greenhouses, glass houses, drip irrigation, and that is the need of the hour. The problem is every time we talk to the government, they say private sector will come, they'll take our land. That's the one thing which the farmer is saying. They don't understand. When there is a lease of land, which is one of the law, lease is only to use the right to use, not the ownership of land which changes. So they are being misguided. And if the lease is allowed, the companies, the individuals will only, or the cooperatives, if I may say, there'll be private cooperatives or farmer producer organization, FPOs, who can come together. They can have few hundred acres of land which become the model farm. And then thousands of farmers around will start growing for you because they know how to grow, they don't know how to market. And if when I'm talking, I will get into agriculture, I'm not doing wheat and rice because that's not what I want. I'm not into commodities. We will bring them into fruit crops. The other day I was having a chat in Maharashtra, one person, Mayank Gandhi, he started some program where he's saying that we have taken the farmer income to 1 lakh per acre. Shall I tell you what is the income of Punjab farmer, which is one of the most progressive farmers in India? Let's assume they have about 2 acres of land. Their income after 2 crops, wheat, rice, and a cash crop in between, let's say some vegetable, they earn anywhere between 80,000-90,000 rupees per acre per year. After doing everything, taking the risk of nature's calamities, taking the load of arranging finance through the RTS, and the RTS charge them 2 to 3% per month on the money they lend to the farmer. And the failed crop because of the pest or the insects. So they take all the risk, and that is what they get. And let me tell you, and I'll just close after this because I know I'm taking too much time in explaining this, but it's important for you. On the lease of land, when I started that, and the note recommendation which I gave to the Prime Minister, based on which, one of these recommendations, which the bill has come. In Punjab, the lease of the agriculture land is about 40 to 50,000 rupees per acre per year. So let's take 40,000, right? 2 acres of land the family has. They give the 2 acres lease on 1st April. So that when you take on lease, the entire money has to be given at that time, which means the farmer gets 80,000 rupees at the beginning of the lease, which is for a year. Then who's going to till and who's going to do the farming activities? They are the ones who have been doing. So we bring the families back onto the farm. So let's pick up two people from a family, not more. Husband, wife, son, daughter, whatever it is. Today, the minimum wage, and I'm telling you, I paid minimum wage. I assume everyone would, unless they want to do something unethical. Today, the minimum wage is about 9,000 rupees per person per year. So 9,000 is 1 lakh 8,000 per person. Into 2 is 2 lakh 16,000. Plus 80,000, which he took from on the lease, is 2 lakh 96. Let's say about 3 lakhs. Versus doing everything and earning 1 lakh 80,000, which is a better model. The farmer should lease land and work on it, because when they work themselves, they don't put that cost. So the farmer income has gone up from 1 lakh 80,000 to 3 lakhs, which means 120. Now you can see it's about 60% up. With the stroke of lease, and the family does not lose their ownership of land. Ownership stays with them. Because the way the legislations have been drafted, I made sure that the Revenue Act must say, upon the expiry of lease, the land will return back to the owner. There will be no tenancy right, because there's a problem of tenancy right in India. If you're a tenant, no one can throw you out and you go into the courts. So there are so many things which can go into a positive. But unfortunately, it's gone into a standoff, the way the things got handled. And we have to now wait for this logjam to break. A long-winded answer, Harviraj, but I think I'm very passionate on agriculture and agri reform, so I gave you my 2 bits of.
Yes, sir. Sir, but I want to ask a connected question. Like you said that when farmer takes loans from the RBI, it is of 2 to 3%. So, sir, there is any reform that the farmer can take loan from the bank also, because I have not
No,
seen.
Harviraj, I'll give you a very short answer because I need to hear others also. The banks need a collateral. The RTA doesn't need a collateral. The RTA will come and sit on the charpai of the manji farmer. The manji de batega cha piyega. He needs money for his elderly parents' health. He will lend that money. The bank will never do that. He needs for marriage. He needs for education. The RTA gives the money. Because RTA knows he has to come to me for selling his crop. That is the time when I'll get my money back with interest. So there is a parallel banking system which is going on. And it's been going on for ages. I mean, can't be broken. That's again a huge cost to the farmer. Who
Sir,
next?
if government wants to break the RTA system, then how will the farmers get loan? Because you only do that they took a risk and grow their crops.
Yeah, but the governments can't lend money for marriages and education and health. I mean, there are different schemes which they can look at. I mean, if you see government schools, then there's no fees. So in a way, they are already providing free education. I mean, marriages, the state governments have some of these schemes, but that really doesn't make much difference. Of 5,000-10,000 rupees on a shadi is not something which is going to help. But and that is where these reforms are important, where they're saying set up parallel mandis. So there's a transparent system of a trade happening. Go into leases so that the individual. And let me also tell you, there are farmers who have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 acres of land in Benami names because they can't hold it in their. There was a situation. I don't know what has happened now in Punjab, rural India. The husband wife living together but divorced on paper, only for the reason so that they can hold 17 acres of 2 agricultural land blocks. So the government policies are so archaic and so out of sync that you just get into doing unethical things for no reason. Who's going next?
Excuse me,
Mamta,
sir.
sorry, Bhupinder or Gautam, you have to tell me the time where we are.
We are on 12:05. So we can take another 10 minutes, sir.
Okay.
So, why do you think that the education system lags behind even though the NEP was employed?
Even though?
The NEP was there, but still the education system isn't that
No,
preventable.
Name, the national education policy has just been put in place. Rules and regulations are being written. The education policy has fallen behind for the greed of people. We are creating sweetmeat shops, not sweatshops, sweetmeat shops of charging high fees and not ensuring that the children can get education or jobs. Um, it will take much longer. The journey has started, and I think if we can open up the education sector and give freedom to the private sector, we can see more good institutions coming up. But it's a long haul.
Yes, sir. Because like in India, we do not have much of the skill-based learning because
Yes,
that's what we require for entrepreneurial experience.
that is right.
Manya,
Some
Muslim.
children have, yeah.
Manya?
So
Yes, sir, according to you, when will we get out of this pandemic situation?
don't know. I have no idea, but I can just share with you the medical experts and the doctor friends which I have, and I keep talking to them on regular basis. Manya, they are saying that this is going to stay a bit longer than what we all can think. One of the view is that this will be like any other flu, a virus, not flu, any other virus, which will keep coming year after year, and we'll have to keep on vaccinating. My friend Pankaj Patel, Zydus Cadila, uh, his company is working on a drug to cure. So, which means, I mean, like we have a problem, any kind of a virus, we eat a antibiotic or a medicine. So he says, my job is to see to eliminate the virus, not to just cope up with the virus and get through it. Um, if you hear Randeep Guleria and Naresh Trehan and many others, Shiv Sareen, their view is that this is going to continue till the year end. We are in the second wave. The governments have already started talking of the third wave, which will set in sometimes in the winters. So I don't know, but it's not going in a jiffy. The what do you say? The impact will come down. So I mean the cases will start coming down, and the only way to take care of this is through vaccination, because even if one gets after the two shots, it will be a mild one, and therefore much better for the patients. So I
Thank
see
you, sir.
Lavanya and okay, Mani. I see
Gursifat.
Lavanya and Gursifat.
Gursifat.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask your views on the statement that is it true that economy of nation or India is in specific person's hand, like collective number of persons, or is it in the hands of all the citizens of the country?
Well, I can tell you any economic growth or any economy is part of what all the citizens do, is part of all the commercial activity which gets done in the organized sector and the inorganized sector, from a ready wala to a industrialist. So, the point you're making is that is not the economy, that is the wealth. So the wealth can reside in few families, few hands, lesser number of population, and majority of the population, and they are earning a good living or a reasonable living. That depends on what each one is doing. But the economic growth and the economy is run by everyone, from a driver to a peon to the businessman, everyone.
Thank
Lavanya.
you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is, in some rural parts of India, some regions are facing problems like they don't have clean water to drink. One of
Lavanya,
guide,
Lavanya, there's a lot of echo. Can you just move away from the mic a bit? Yeah.
so one of guidelines issued by World Health Organization is to prevent COVID-19 to wash hand regularly. So you think India will situation?
So can someone repeat? I lost few words in between.
Okay, sir. In
No, no.
some
Gautam,
of
can you repeat it? Because you're.
She's saying some. You better you're saying regarding WHO and what guidelines you're saying. I also lot in between.
sir, I will repeat my question. In some rural parts of India, some regions are facing severe, like they don't have water to drink. One of the guidelines issued by WHO to prevent COVID-19 was hand hands regularly. So you think India will come out with this situation?
So, Lavanya, unfortunately, there was a lot of words missing out. Namya, did you hear the question?
Yes, sir. She was
You tell
saying
me.
that, yes, sir. She's saying that due to COVID-19, like we're wasting lot of water. So, and according to WHO, we're supposed to keep washing hands. So, what are your views on that?
Yes, we are wasting water, but we have to save ourselves first. I think that is important. So sanitize using a sanitizer, washing hands with soap is a must. Because unfortunately, this virus, as a matter of fact, this is now airborne. I mean, clearly. There used to be heated debates in my home. My kids on one side and me on the other side. And my younger son would bang the table and say, "This is airborne," even when we had the first wave last year. I said, "Well, what the experts are saying, we have to listen to that." Now, the WHO and every expert says this is airborne. And I remember my doctor telling me that you cannot be in enclosed rooms, especially where the air conditioning is on. So I told him, I said, I go to office every day, but either I'm alone in the room. If someone comes in, we both are in a mask. And if I get into a meeting room, everyone is in a mask. But of course, during lunch, we are sitting on a table opposite. And he says, sitting opposite and having lunch without, of course, you can't wear a mask, is next to kissing. It is almost that fatal because it's airborne. It is air conditioning is picking that up. So one can say that even if you are washing hands, we are breathing the air, and therefore you need a mask. But there is no other. Unfortunately, there is no other way out. And let me also tell you, the water problem is because of the wrong policies of the governments, giving free power to the farmers. I know for sure it started with Punjab, and the Punjab farmers never had power or electricity during the day. At night, they will switch on the pump and sleep. Now the water is flowing all through the burrows and the field. And if you needed X amount of water, it was X plus because the whole night the pump is on. And given the entrepreneurial spirit of Punjab, there was a huge demand of washing machines in Punjab, which went up in the 80s. And the machines, the machine manufacturers did a survey. And what did they find? That the machines are being used to make lassi. Oh, not Redakna manual nahi sikha. You put everything in the washing machine and the tumbler is making the lassi and the makhan is coming out. So we have very ingenuine ideas, always thinking wrong in a wrongful manner, never applying the mind into doing something positive. But we have to continue to wash hands. Tithi,
So I wanted to ask on increasing.
Tithi, you have to repeat. You'll have to repeat. There was a lot of.
So I was asking, what are your views on increasing violence in India?
Someone has to repeat. I couldn't hear.
Increasing
Increasing
violence in
violence in
India.
India.
Increase in violence in India. Uh, I think this has been more or less in every age, in every part of life, and through the decades. I mean, this has been part of living. And I can attribute probably 2 or 3 reasons. One is illiteracy, because the you're not taught the values, or you're not taught how to respect each other. You are not taught to be patient in listening to others' ideas. So that could be one reason. The second is the discrimination which we see, economic discrimination, because we feel that if we have more money, if we have more power, then we can break the system, we can do anything. And if anyone is trying to stop me, I have the right to get angry and do whatever I want to. And that also stems because there is no consequence management. There are no penalties, there are no, what you say, um, कोई सजा नहीं मिलती है. What is सजा को क्या कहते हैं इंग्लिश में?
Punishment.
Punishment.
Punishment, yeah. Such a simple word, it happens now. I'm 65 plus. So no punishment, it's only appeasement. And, and I think the third is the upbringing at home. We see the discrimination starting at home. The boys get more favors than the girls. And this is more pronounced in the rural areas, if you see. The girl will not be allowed to educate. I'm not talking of today, but I'm saying 15 years ago, this was the thing. घर के काम काज कराओ, आप घर में हाथ बटाओ, लड़के को पढ़ना चाहिए. So that discrimination starts from the day one at home. The discrimination is all around us in the communities and the societies we live. And then the value system not being taught in schools by parents, by governments, by the society. All this is a combination of increased violence. And and I think the respect which I talked about, each girl and each boy must be taught to respect the other person, whether you are interacting with a boy or a girl on the other side. And since I'm again going back to what used to be at home, the boys always felt that they have the right to do or say whatever they can or they want to and get away with it. Because that was the way of life in everyone's home. Things have changed. Things have changed significantly. Today, you see girls are more confident. Today, you see girls are more educated. Today, you see girls they earn their living. They are financially independent. In that also probably, I mean, if I flip the coin by saying, gone to the other extent now, when you see the girls saying that, I don't need to listen to you because I'm independent, I can fend for myself, which you see in the form of more divorces, which now happen because the girls and the boys both feel that they don't need to work on the marriage. And so walking out of a marriage, walking away from a relationship is the outcome of what is happening. But having said that, I still believe that boys, girls need to be well educated, need to be well independent, but more importantly, respect each other. And that also, I think, at home again, how the fathers behave with the mothers, the kids pick up that at a very impressionable age, how the society is looking at. And the last point I want to make is the sort of people go mad in their mind when they have power. And I'm reminded of a quote that if you want to judge the character of a person, first give him or her the power and then see what is the character of that person. Somehow, power has always corrupted every person. And therefore, angry, angry faces, angry people, you see violence on the road, you see violence at homes, is become a norm of life, need to change. And I have great hope from a younger generation like yours to bring that change. So we can now, I think, conclude the session because it's 12:20. I didn't realize the time. So let me just share with you two of the quotes which I had written for some other as I was scribbling on paper. So one of the quote is लोग कहते हैं बड़ा आदमी बनना अच्छी बात है. मेरा ये मानना है कि अच्छा आदमी बनना बड़ी बात है. So let me repeat. लोग कहते हैं बड़ा आदमी बनना अच्छी बात है. बड़ा आदमी is more money, more power. लेकिन अच्छा आदमी बनना बड़ी बात है. So that is one thought I would like to leave to you. The second is, a tree that wants to touch the skies extends its roots deep into the earth, into the soil. The more it wants to rise upwards, the more it has to grow downwards. So that is a lesson which I want to leave with you, that you can only be humble, caring, and loving if your roots are deep into the ground, if the value system is deeply imbibed in your hearts and minds. So I can only say, rise in life, get more down to earth. Of course, you can't go into the earth like the roots of the trees, but on the earth, humble and grateful every day. If you can keep your head on your shoulders, feet on the ground, you can defeat and fight any challenge in future. So good luck, Satyans. Nice interacting with you. Love you all. Take care. All the very best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with them. And thank you, children. A real intelligent class, I must say. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir.
I mean,
Thank you, sir.
the kind of questions they have asked, I don't know whether I passed or failed. I mean, my grades whatever can be sent on the side. Because
right, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye, sir. Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, children. Lovely
if you can
class.
Stop the recording.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.